Welcome to the Man Cave Podcast. This is your escape for real, unscripted conversations about sports, hobbies, life, and storytelling. No scripts, no forced takes, just Man Cave talk. Now, here's your host, Dan Kasper.
Nobody better to help us break it all down than Brewers reporter for Fox Sports Radio Wisconsin, host of the baseball pregame show in Milwaukee Baseball Tonight, Mr. Hunter Baumgart is joining the program again this morning. Good morning, Hunter. How are you doing, sir?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me back, Dan. And there is no shortage of things to talk about when it comes to the Brewers right now, which is a blast.
Exactly. Well, let's get right to it. I mean, rumors are rampant. Reports are all out there, whether it's Jeff Passan or whoever else. I mean, Skubal is the big name that's being out there. I mean, I don't know what your thoughts are on this whole ordeal, but I mean, do you think this is possible that the Brewers could potentially get Skubal, and would they be willing, in your opinion and your expertise, would they be willing to maybe overpay to make sure they get his services?
Yeah, it's really the question of the trade deadline right now, and I think he might be the first domino to fall just because I think a lot of teams are, interested obviously in his services, and so that might be the first domino before some of those other pitchers go, or maybe some teams are like, yeah, we're not going to try to bid for what the Tigers are asking for. I think it is a possibility that the Brewers get Tarik Skubal. I do not think it's likely. I think it's still likely that he ends up with maybe the Dodgers. I mean, it could be Braves or Rays, but I don't know. I just, if history tells us anything, it tells us that Tarik Skubal is going to be an LA Dodger by next week. But you hope that maybe this year can be a little different. It sounds like the Brewers want to be more aggressive at this trade deadline. It just depends on how aggressive they want to be. And does that consist of giving up some of your top prospects like you haven't done in the past, really, maybe even since CC Sabathia? I mean, this is a deal. If you get a deal for Tarik Skubal, this is a deal like CC Sabathia, and one you haven't done since then. Maybe the Zach Greinke deal, but the Greinke deal wasn't during the season. So that's the difference of this, is you're in a pennant race. You have one of the best records in baseball. You got the 6-game division lead as we sit here now, and you're looking towards October and trying to, obviously you want to win the division and beat everybody else, but you're also knowing that you'll have to probably get through the Dodgers to get to the World Series, and that's where you want to go. So if those are your aspirations, they absolutely should be more aggressive, and they should try to get Skubal. I don't know if they are going to be willing to give up what the Tigers want to, just because they have to think about the future in the small market. That just is the reality of the situation. But there's just so much smoke to the fire. You talked about the reports and rumors and everything. If the Brewers had no chance at Skubal, I don't think these many people would be talking about them in the Skubal conversation. In years past, sometimes it's been, for this top guy, yeah, it's all these teams, and maybe the Brewers would be interested, but they're probably not going to give it up. But this year it seems a little different, so I'm eager to see how that plays over the next 5 days.
If it were to cost, let's say, because I saw some reports saying the Tigers may be looking for a major league ready arm, and if it were to cost either Logan Henderson, Brandon Sproat, or Shane Drowan, do you think the Brewers would be willing to give up one of those three guys, considering that would also affect the future, as you just mentioned?
It would, for sure. I think, of those three, I personally would want to keep Henderson the most, and I would think the Tigers would be interested in Henderson the most. I mean, when articles have been written about what pitcher the Brewers would give up, Logan Henderson is usually mentioned as the guy. I heard Jim Bowden, the former GM, talk about possibly Brandon Sproat being included in the deal. I don't know if they'd go ahead and trade Shane Drowan after just acquiring him this past offseason. So I'm eager to see, if that would even be the case, which one of those the Tigers would get back. I would think that the Tigers would want a major league ready arm, like you said. It would make sense. They're not that far out of the race for this year, but even for years to come, you want a guy who's proven if you're going to give up a Tarik Skubal. But Yeah, I think would they be willing to? They have so much depth at that position. Obviously, it's being tested right now because you have guys that are hurt, like Quinn Priester, like Brandon Woodruff, and obviously Kyle Harrison, who makes a rehab start for the Timber Rattlers tonight, and hopefully he'll be back next week. With the depth they have, though, at that starting rotation, they got Coleman Crow in the minors. Obviously, Robert Gasser's been a part of this major league rotation for a while now. I think you can part with one of those guys, again, because you're getting Skubal back. And then, look, the offseason is going to be what the offseason is. Coleman Crow has, more experience, whether it be AAA or at the big league level the rest of the year. And so you're going to have more options come next season, going into next season. Obviously, Skubal won't be on your team next season. He's going to sign an extension elsewhere. But I just think it's not maybe as dire of a situation if they do trade one of those guys plus some prospects as it maybe has been in the past, because their farm system is so loaded right now. They can make a significant deal and still feel pretty good about their farm system. Is it going to be top 3 anymore? Probably not. But hey, if it could net you a World Series, it's worth it.
Yeah, you mentioned Jim Bowden, and he also mentioned Andrew Fisher, which I don't know about you, and some Brewers fans have chimed in this morning like, we don't want to. I mean, this is a guy who's hit over 30 home runs this year in the minor leagues. He made a name for himself in the World Baseball Classic. Obviously, it sounds like Made's untouchable. Would you consider Andrew Fisher untouchable for the Brewers at this point?
Like, I personally want him to be untouchable because I'm fast. I love what he's doing. Leads the minor leagues in home runs. At last check, like, he has been having an amazing year, and it's just absolutely tearing it up. And looks like, that the high draft pick that they selected him at. So I'm apprehensive to give him up, but I don't think you can say anybody's untouchable except for, as far as in the farm system, except for Jesus Madej. I really don't think you can, because he is their top prospect, yes. But otherwise, if you are going to get one of those guys, now the Brewers might be thinking, yes, he's untouchable, and that may take them out of the running for a Tarik Skubal. I don't know. I don't know those negotiations and how they're going down as we speak. But I think I just think if you want to go get one of those guys, you probably are going to have to part with someone you really think has significant potential. Now, they're doing it. Andrew Fisher's doing it all in single A and in high A and double A. So obviously he has not done it at AAA at the major league level yet, but there's no signs of that power stopping and just abruptly stopping. And obviously the Brewers would love to have more power in their lineup in years to come. So that is definitely something to consider. I would not love to see Andrew Fisher traded, but I did see, I saw some of that as well. I saw some people on social media, and I saw one that was like, this would just, giving up Andrew Fisher would ruin the season. And I was thinking to myself, well, if you give up Andrew Fisher and you get Tarik Skubal and you win a World Series, I don't think a World Series championship season can be necessarily ruined. Mm-hmm. So that's the trade-off, right? It's the future. It's some of these guys compared to, okay, you won 97 games last year. You got to the NLCS. You're going for your 4th straight division title. You're competing for a top seed in the National League. You're competing for a bye. You got a 6-game lead in the division. At some point, it is time to go for it. And as much as maybe we want to wait for a Fisher to come up or a Madej to come up or a Pena to come up or some of these guys in the infield or even any pitching prospects you may want, that's great and all, but you're not guaranteed to be 26 games over 500 on July 30th in years to come, and you are right now. So, man, let's take our chances maybe. And I wonder if that's why the Brewers are reportedly going to be a little more aggressive at this deadline.
So Jeff Passan also said in his latest one that I saw that he is hearing that everybody's just kind of assuming it's going to be the Dodgers for Skubal. If that is the case, if it is the Dodgers that do land him, do you think the Brewers then, like, okay, we need to have a plan B and we need to be uber aggressive, whether that's bringing back Freddie Peralta or another starting pitcher and then maybe bringing in another bullpen arm? Because, I mean, it seems like the focus is on just the Dodgers here at this point. If they don't get Skubal, do you think Matt Arnold shifts gears and time's coming up? I mean, the deadline is Monday, that he has to be extra aggressive then to add other pieces?
I think a lot of this is going to fall here in the last couple of days simply because teams are still trying to decide if they're going to be buyers or sellers here. And so these last couple games before the deadline might even decide it. So I think you're going to see most trades happen Saturday, Sunday, Monday, as much as we want them to happen now. I think it's less about if another team gets Skubal, whether it's the Dodgers or even, I guess, the report out of The Athletic last night was that the Cubs are seeing Skubal as their blockbuster option. I don't know if that's necessarily as realistic, especially because teams like the Brewers and Dodgers, if they're willing to, can offer more in their farm system than the Cubs can. But that's another team you don't want to necessarily have throwing Skubal out there down the stretch. You face them 2 more times, one in Wrigley and one in American Family Field. And so, you know, end of August, early September. So you don't want that necessarily. So not that you play defense if you're Matt Arnold, right? You don't go and get a guy just because you don't want him to be on another team, but I'm sure it factors in just a little bit. I am interested when it comes to other pitchers, I think either way, you have to be trying to do that if you're Matt Arnold and the Brewers, because I think a veteran in this rotation would be key. Pat Murphy basically admitted as much in the last homestand, saying, asked, do you think a veteran, it'd be good for a veteran to be added to this rotation? He said, yeah. Now, I thought Lance McCullers Jr. might be a possibility for that. Obviously, that quickly did not pan out. Mm-hmm. But I'm interested to see, because there's other options there. Like you mentioned, the Freddie Peralta thing, whether it's a Robbie Ray or a Kevin Gossman or a Trevor Richards, or there's other guys that are pitching decently this year that you can add to that rotation. I think it'll be a good piece. Is it Tarik Skubal? No. But is it maybe more of a deal that the Brewers could do, and maybe they're a little more aggressive than in years past? Meaning they maybe give up a little more to get one of those guys, and they're kind of a stalwart down the stretch and hopefully can help you in the postseason as well. So I think I think Skubal probably is the first domino to fall. Maybe one of those other guys, one of them gets picked up or something or traded, so to speak. But I also I think with the Tarik Skubal situation, kind of once everybody says, okay, whoever got Skubal obviously is out of the running likely for those other guys, and then you move from there. I don't think it's a reactionary move from Arnold, because I think they're probably planning to hopefully add a piece to that starting rotation either way. But I do think Skubal is probably the first domino to fall.
Earlier in the season, off season, fans said we need another bat. We need another bat. They got to get another bat. And now that we are up to the trade deadline, maybe not hearing it as much. And you look across, Cooper Pratt's hitting well. Joey Ortiz is hitting well since being moved over to third base. You got Lara that's hitting well. Do the Brewers still need to add another bat, in your opinion? And if so, I mean, you look at this roster, where would that person play?
Well, that's the thing. We were discussing on the show this morning, like C.J. Abrams. And look, I mean, anybody would like to have C.J. Abrams on your team, but obviously you committed money to Cooper Pratt. He's your shortstop. C.J. Abrams is a shortstop. He's a power-hitting shortstop, which the Brewers could use more home runs. There's no doubt about that. Basically last in the league in that, and they have been for a while. But third base, I guess, would be the one place where I could see that they could upgrade, but there's just not a ton of market for that. And anybody who's going to be traded, because the market is pretty thin, is going to demand a high amount of return, I would think. And as much as, when we started the year, they had pretty good pitching depth, but unfortunately with Priester done for the year and Woodruff done for the year, and you don't know how these young guys are going to fare down the stretch, whether it be Henderson or Miz or anybody, Harrison, like any of these guys who are maybe going to work more than they ever have at the major league level. With not knowing that, I think getting pitching is probably the more priority. And honestly, a leverage bullpen arm would be good too. I don't necessarily think Mason Miller is going to be moved out of the Padres, and that would take a haul as well. But I think maybe, just a different arm that you could throw in a leverage role. Aaron Ashby's been a little shakier as of late. Uribe and McGill have been great over the last few months, but I think you want to add one more to that bullpen and make it even a little more shored up. I would be surprised if it's a low-level type of relief guy, I would be surprised if they don't go out and make a deal for a relief pitcher. I think that's still a priority. So in my list of what I think is a priority, just judging by what the Brewers have said and what they do, I would say likely it goes probably starting pitching, relief pitching, and then a bat. And unless it's maybe a bench bat. But then again, okay, say Frelick comes back. Okay, Perkins goes down. You have Lockridge coming back from injury. Sure, you can upgrade over some of those guys. You can upgrade obviously certainly over Perkins, who you have right now. But otherwise, I feel pretty good about that lineup. And it's just about the guys that the guys at the top of your lineup have to hit. I mean, Contreras has to hit. He's not been great as of late. Yelich has to hit. He's not been great as of late. Turank's turning it around a little bit, which is good. But I mean, you just have to have the top of your lineup, or else you can Skubal all you want, but you got to have the top of your guy. You know, you got to have the top of your lineup hit. So that's I think more of what I would be thinking as a solution rather than a trade deadline acquisition.
Just two more questions here for you, Hunter. A lot of fans have said, well, maybe don't make a big move because they're worried about chemistry with this team and in the clubhouse. You would know more than I do, but I look at this and I see Pat Murphy. I see the leaders like a Christian Yelich and a lot of those guys. Is team chemistry something you would personally worry about if they were to acquire a player? Or do you think that clubhouse is so lock and step, led by Pat Murphy and these players, that wouldn't be an issue?
I think Matt Arnold in the front office is really good at being able to tell who is going to fit in that clubhouse and making sure they acquire the right guy. I think they put a lot of thought into it, and obviously they care about culture in the clubhouse. I mean, it's been rare that there have been guys that have come in and not fit into that clubhouse. While I've been covering the team over the last 4 or 5 years, like it just has been pretty seamless with a lot of the guys, and that's because they target guys who they think are going to fit well, and a lot of them do. They've gotten a lot of them right. And even if maybe their priorities are in a different place, I think Pat Murphy is pretty good, like you said, at making sure that they have their priorities. He sits down with these guys, and a guy, whoever it is, coming into the organization, and one of the first things he said, I remember when Cooper Pratt was called up, it was like his first meeting with Pratt was, look, you're playing for the name on the front of your jersey, not the back. And I think that's a message he usually uses with guys that come in, whether it's a prospect coming up or a guy coming in from a different organization. Now, if it's a veteran, obviously that conversation might be a little different, and there's different things you have to think about there. But I would be careful. I know there's, people are talking about maybe giving up a Sal Frelick considering how good Luis Lara is playing. And I love how Luis Lara is playing. He looks like a player, and it's been really fun to watch so far in his first, 20-some days in the big leagues. But Frelick and Jake Bauers called him the heartbeat of the team about a month ago. I would be careful, and I believe they will be. And Pat Murphy loves himself some Sal Frelick. I think that entire team loves the way Sal Frelick plays. His defense is Gold Glove caliber. Obviously, you hope that his offense can get better, but this guy was near a batting title last year, nearing 300, his batting average. So I would be careful with him. I think you trade away Sal Frelick, and I think there could be some, I think that could disrupt the clubhouse a little bit. Is it going to totally derail them? Probably not, but it's something I think you have to be aware of. And I think the Brewers specifically, and Matt Arnold was around for this back in 22, they all have learned from the Josh Hader deal, I think. So I think that is going to be in their minds as they approach Monday at 5.
Last question for you. Is Matt Arnold under any pressure, in your opinion, to make a move or not?
From like ownership?
Just maybe from like a fan perspective. I mean, we got a team that's competing for, the top spot, the best record, a World Series. Do you feel like there's a pressure, maybe even from himself, from within, to like, okay, I got to make a move to make sure that we get to that next step?
I think there's a little more. I think I think Matt Arnold has been really good at, playing for this year and the future years. And he did an interview on Foul Territory last Friday, and he's like, we obviously, and we really want to add to this team, but we also have to worry about what the team's going to look like, in a year as well. So he has been really good at balancing that. But I think just hearing what he has said and what he has said in some interviews here over the last couple of weeks, it just sounds like he's kind of feeling, I don't know if it's pressure, but more so like, man, we got so close to the World Series last year, and we got our core of offense back from last year, and our pitching seems to be pretty good as far as when they're healthy. And obviously Miz is having a historic year, and Harrison's been great, and Drowan's been a great surprise, and hopefully Sproat can get on track. And obviously Henderson has one of the best ERAs through his first 14 starts in the big leagues in franchise history. Like, they've got, and obviously the back end of the bullpen's been great over the last few months of Uribe and McGill. I think he's looking at it and saying, yeah, after last year and how close you came last year, I think you got to be feeling a little bit to say, okay, it's great and all to win the division. It's great and all to get a bye. It's great, but we gotta get to a World Series here in Milwaukee and win one, of course. And what that would mean, he talked about on Foul Territory last week about what that would mean to the city, what that would mean, to do it for, Bob Uecker's family and the whole deal. So I think he understands how much Brewers fans want to win one. And I wonder, not that he's very good at not being a GM like a fan, right?
Mm-hmm.
But I think there are, if the situation presents itself, he may go a little more aggressive this year, because this feels like it's kind of been all leading to this moment. As far as not necessarily the trade deadline, but it feels like they've been on an upward trajectory, finally won their first playoff series since 2018 last year. And if you want to continue that, the next step is winning a pennant and getting to the World Series, and being aggressive at the trade deadline just might help you do that.
Hunter Baumgart, he is the Brewers reporter for Fox Sports 920, host of the baseball pregame show and Milwaukee Baseball Tonight. Dude, great stuff. Big thanks again for hanging out with us here in the Chippewa Valley and giving us your expertise and insight. And we got to catch up again after the trade deadline and break everything down if anything does happen.
Absolutely. Happy to jump on next week or whenever works for you, as we'll see what the Brewers do. I'm interested. But, yeah, thanks so much for having me on, Dan, and looking forward to next time.
You got it, buddy. There you go. There's Hunter Baumgart. Great stuff, as always, from Hunter. Always appreciate him taking some time and joining us again up here in the Chippewa Valley. So